Okay, students, so we shall study about water chemistry now. Like you all said, water is essential, very essential for the survival. So all living beings need water for the survival, right? So what are the sources of water then? So there are two main sources of water, okay? One is surface water source and the other one is underground water source. There are two main sources of water, surface water source and underground water source. Then what is the surface water source? Now the water that is available on the surface of the earth. So that is called as surface water source. Okay. And underground water source means water that is present underground. So that is called as underground water source. So the examples of surface water source are rainwater, rivers, lakes, seas, etc. So these are what surface water sources. Okay. Then underground water sources examples are bore wells, springs. So these are underground water sources. So we have two sources of water, surface water source and underground water source. Surface water source means the water that is available on the surface of the earth. So that is called as surface water source. Example is rainwater, river, lake, sea, etc. Okay. And underground water sources, the water that is present underground. So that's called as underground water source. And the examples are bore wells, or you can say tube wells, and then wells, springs, etc. So these are the sources of water. Now, when we generally talk of rainwater, we say that rainwater is the purest form of water, isn't it? So when this rainwater falls onto the earth, that is a surface water source, rainwater I've written here, what happens is onto the surface of the earth, there are lots of impurities. So the water will get contaminated. So generally, water will have many impurities into it. So now let us study what are the impurities that are present in water. Okay. So the impurities in water. The impurities present in water are broadly classified into four types. How many types? Four types. The first one is dissolved impurities. Dissolved impurities. Then, after dissolved impurities, you have suspended matter. Suspended matter. Then, the third impurity is dissolved gases. Dissolved gases. And the fourth one is organic matter. So there are four types of impurities present in the water. So the first one is dissolved impurity. Second is suspended matter. Third, dissolved gases. And the fourth one is organic matter. So now we shall study all of these impurities present in water in detail. Okay. So coming to the first one, dissolved impurities. So what are the dissolved impurities that are present in water then? So dissolved impurities, what are these dissolved impurities? Dissolved impurities are basically the dissolved salts that are present in water. Okay, dissolved impurities means the dissolved salts that are present into water. Now, which are the dissolved salts usually present into the water? Now, they are bicarbonates, chlorides, and sulfates of calcium, magnesium, and sodium. Okay. What are the dissolved impurities present in water? They are mainly the bicarbonates, chlorides, and sulfates of calcium, magnesium, and sodium. Apart from this, there are small traces of nitrates, nitrites, silicates, ammonium, and ferrous salts. So these nitrates, nitrites, silicates, ammonium, and ferrous salts are also present in small quantities in water. Okay. So the dissolved impurities mainly consist of dissolved salts like bicarbonates, chlorides, and sulfates of calcium, magnesium, and sodium. Okay. Apart from that, there are small traces of nitrates, nitrites, silicates, ammonium salts, as well as ferrous salts, and these are present in small amounts, like I said. Okay. Then, now, how are these salts present into water then? Now, when water falls onto the surface, I said that surface contains lots of impurities into it. So that is how the water is contaminated. Now, when water is continuously in contact with rocks and soil, water when it is continuously in contact with rocks and soil, then there are chances that these dissolved salts are present into the water. Now, how is it possible? Now, when water is continuously present in presence or it is in contact with rocks, then rocks usually contain limestone into them. So, limestone is calcium carbonate. Okay, limestone is calcium carbonate. Now, this limestone, that is calcium carbonate, which is present into the rocks. So, when water comes and it is present continuously in case of rocks which contains calcium carbonate, now this calcium carbonate, this water also has dissolved carbon dioxide into it. So this dissolved carbon dioxide into water now interacts with calcium carbonate to form calcium bicarbonate. Okay, to form calcium bicarbonate. So this is how bicarbonates are formed. Similarly, when this water comes in contact with magnesite, magnesite is MgCO3, that is magnesium carbonate. Okay. So water, when it contains dissolved carbon dioxide into it, this dissolved carbon dioxide also interacts or reacts with the magnesite, that is magnesium carbonate, to form magnesium bicarbonate. So this is how dissolved salts are present into water. I hope you all understood this dissolved impurities present in water. Okay. So once you all have understood this dissolved impurities, then now let us move on to the next one, suspended impurities. Okay, suspended impurities. Now, suspended impurities. Okay, there are two types of suspended impurities. Suspend means the ones which will tend to float, floating material. Those are called as suspending, okay, or suspended impurities. There are two types of suspended impurities: inorganic impurities, and organic impurities. The suspended impurities are classified into two types, that is inorganic impurities and organic impurities. Okay. Then what are the inorganic suspended impurities present in water? It consists of sand, clay, dust, sometimes dust particle as well. Okay. So these are the inorganic impurities present in the water. Now apart from this, there are also hydroxides of iron and aluminium present into it. Hydroxides of what? Iron and aluminium present into it. Now, from where do these hydroxides of iron and aluminium come into water as suspended impurities? These hydroxides of iron and aluminium will come into the water from erosion of soil. Okay, this erosion of soil. Then next we have Organic impurities. What are the organic impurities then? Organic impurities mainly consists of the decayed vegetable matter and that those which are caused due to microorganisms. Okay, organic matter usually consists of decayed vegetable matter and the ones which is caused due to microorganisms. So this is organic impurity. Now see, when I say about inorganic suspended impurity or organic suspended impurity. Now suppose here in organic impurities, if the particle size is large, okay, if the particle size is large, then what happens is these impurities will tend to settle down at the bottom of water. Whereas the fine particles, means small particles, these are colloidal in nature. What are these? Colloidal in nature. Since these are colloidal in nature, these will tend to suspend into the water itself, means float into the water itself. Okay, they never settle down. Same is the case with organic impurities. These organic impurities or the organic suspended impurities are colloidal in nature and these will tend to suspend into the water. Okay, since these are colloidal in nature, these will make water turbid in nature. Okay, this will make water turbid in nature. So this is about the suspended impurities. So I hope you all understood suspended impurities now. Okay, somebody has asked me to repeat the reaction for dissolved impurities. Okay, I'll be repeating the reaction for dissolved impurities. Please pay attention here. Here, now water, when it is continuously in presence of rocks and soil, what happens is usually it tends to react with the materials that are present into rocks and soils. Now for example, limestone, this is present into rocks, right? So when water is continuously in contact with limestone, what happens is water has dissolved carbon dioxide into it. So this dissolved carbon dioxide, okay, which is present into the water, that will react with calcium carbonate to form calcium bicarbonate. So this is how calcium bicarbonate is formed. Similarly, magnesite, okay, when water is in contact with magnesite, again the dissolved carbon dioxide present into water will react with magnesite to form magnesium bicarbonate. So this is how bicarbonates are formed. Similarly, various other salts also will be formed which are present into the water as dissolved impurities. Okay, so I hope this thing you all have understood. Then, so we have studied about dissolved impurities now and suspended impurities. Now we shall study about dissolved gases. So usually the dissolved gases in water, okay, usually the dissolved gases in water are oxygen, carbon dioxide, then you have sulfur dioxide, okay, sulfur dioxide, and also oxides of nitrogen. So these are the dissolved gases that are usually present into water. Now these are derived from the atmosphere. Now suppose if sulfur is present into the water, if sulfur is present into the water in the form of hydrogen sulfide, in the form of hydrogen sulfide in water, then this is going to impart a foul smell to water. Okay, so the dissolved gases present in water are oxygen, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and oxides of nitrogen. So these are derived from the atmosphere. Suppose if sulfur is present into the water in the form of hydrogen sulfide, then it will impart foul smell to water. So this is about the dissolved gases. Then the fourth type of impurity we have here is organic matter. So it is organic matter. Okay. Then what is this organic matter? Organic matter means this is dead and decayed vegetable matter or the animal matter which is present into the water. Okay. Dead and decayed vegetable matter or animal matter that is present into the water. This might also include sewage and human excreta. So this will also include what? Sewage and human excreta. Since this organic matter which is present in the form of sewage and human excreta into the water, pathogenic bacteria will be generated in water. Okay, what will be generated in water? Pathogenic bacteria. Pathogenic bacteria will be generated in water. Now, pathogenic bacteria like typhoid bacillus. So pathogenic bacteria like typhoid, bacillus and various other pathogenic bacteria will be present in as organic matter in water. So these are all the impurities that are present in water. I hope you'll have understood about the impurities that are present in water. So I shall repeat it. The first type of impurity is dissolved impurity. Second one is suspended impurity. Third is dissolved gases. And the fourth one is organic matter. Okay. So now we shall study something called as boiler feed water. Okay, we shall study something called as boiler feed water. Now, can you all tell me where these boilers are used? Yes, students, can you all tell me where these boilers are used? You can type in the chats there and you can tell me where these boilers are used or for what these boilers are used. Yes, very good. These are used for the production of steam, right? Into various industries, boilers are used for the production of steam. Okay, then what is this boiler feed water? See, the water that is fed in the boiler, okay, water that is fed in the boiler for the production of steam, it is called as boiler feed water. I repeated, water that is fed in the boiler for the production of steam. So this is called as boiler feed water. Okay, water that is fed in the boiler for the production of steam is called as boiler feed water. Now there are certain requirements for this boiler feed water. Okay, there are certain requirements for the boiler feed water. Requirements of boiler feed water. Now what do you mean by this? See, water is fed into the boiler for the production of steam. Now, if you want more amount of steam to be generated, efficiency of the boiler has to be excellent. Now, how is this efficiency of the boiler maintained? That depends on the water which you are using in the boiler. Okay. So the water that you are using in the boiler should meet certain requirements. If it meets certain requirements, then it can produce steam with much more better efficiency. Okay. Then what are the requirements of this boiler feed water? Now, the water that is fed into the boiler should have zero hardness. It should have zero hardness. Okay. So the water should have zero hardness. Zero hardness means they should not be, the water should not be hard at all. Okay. The water should not be hard at all. So it should have zero hardness. Then the water should be free from dissolved salts. It should be free from dissolved salts. Then the water should be free from dissolved gases. The water should be free from dissolved gases. Then the water should also be free from suspended impurities. Free from suspended impurities. And water should also be free from alkalinity. Free from alkalinity. So these are all the requirements of boiler feed water, or the water that is fed into the boiler should have all these requirements. It should have zero hardness, means no hardness at all. And then it should be free from dissolved salts, it should be free from dissolved gases, it should be free from suspended impurities, and it also should be free from alkalinity. Okay, so these are the requirements of the water which should be fed into the boiler for the production of steam. Now suppose if the water that you are feeding into the boiler doesn't meet any of these conditions, and if you are using hard water, then what happens to the boiler? Okay, what happens to the boiler when you use hard water, and if it doesn't meet any of these requirements? Can anyone tell me what happens? Yes, very good, Balraj. It leads to corrosion. Corrosion of the boiler. Yes, very good, Asha. It also leads to foaming. Okay, so here let us study about the ill effects or disadvantages. Okay, disadvantages of using hard water in the boiler. Of using hard water in boilers. What are the ill effects or the disadvantages of using hard water in the boiler? So the first one is it leads to the formation of sludge and scale. It leads to the formation of sludge and scale. So the first one is it leads to the formation of sludge and scale. Second one is it leads to the formation of priming and foaming. It leads to the formation of priming and foaming. Okay. Then next, it leads or it causes caustic embrittlement. It causes caustic embrittlement of the boiler or in the boiler. Okay. Then it also causes boiler corrosion. It also causes boiler corrosion. So these are the disadvantages of using hard water in the boiler. So the first thing what happens is it will lead to the formation of sludge and scale. Then it will lead to the formation of priming and foaming. Then it will lead to caustic embrittlement. Okay, or it will cause caustic embrittlement in boilers, and it will also cause boiler corrosion.